Hello and welcome to Debate 101. This is the second class, or this is the second lecture we're doing. It's the introduction to debate. This introduction is for people who either have a very small knowledge of debate so far, or who have never debated but are interested in it and will perhaps be debaters in the future. We're going to cover four things today. The first is, what is competitive debate? The second is, how does a debate work? The third is, what are the parts of a debate? And the fourth is the types of arguments that you can use in any given debate. Now, the first section, what is competitive policy debate? First of all, it's structured argument, which means that it's different from the type of arguments that you get in all the time, because those arguments with your friends, your teachers, your family, your coworker, those, while they may be debating and while they may be arguments, are not structured arguments geared toward a sort of central topic like debate is. Competitive college policy debate fosters an environment where one particular question or one particular policy proposition can be debated throughout the whole year, and that's what the debate is stuck to. There are also basic rules governing who speaks and who speaks when, and we'll get to those in a second, but the point is that it uses a lot of the basic things that you use in a day-to-day debate or a day-to-day argument, but it uses them in a slightly more structured form in order to produce the outcome, which is a competitive debate round. Now, something else that's different from competitive college debate and a typical argument that you might get in is that you have to defend both sides of the question. When you go to a debate competition, which we call a tournament, you will be both affirmative and negative, which means you'll be defending this year's proposition that the United States should constructively engage the Middle East, but you'll also have to answer it in every debate. One of the values of this is that it lets people know the arguments that their opponents are making, and it gives them the ability to test convictions by having to challenge them directly. Something else that competitive policy debate does is it focuses on a particular policy, whereas Lincoln Douglas or parliamentary or other debate resolutions may focus on broad thematic questions. Policy debate focuses specifically on whether or not the United States should or should not engage in a certain policy. Now, that policy is laid out in the resolution. The resolution is what sets the ground for debates during the course of the year. This year, that policy and that resolution, I'm paraphrasing now though, are resolved that the United States government should constructively engage with one or more Middle Eastern nations by offering security assistance or foreign aid. Now, throughout the year, most of your debates will center around that question, whether you're on the affirmative side, which is in favor of the resolution, or on the negative side, which is in opposition to the resolution. Something else about policy debate is that we use evidence in order to prove our points. Now, evidence may be an expert opinion, it may be a statistic, it may be analysis from somebody in the field, or it may just simply be somebody who writes a good blog and you want to defend it as useful evidence. This evidence is helpful because it allows debaters to compare and test facts within the course of the debate, and to be able to assert arguments that they may not be able to make otherwise. On the BCD Co-op website, there's a bunch of evidence that you can use on this year's topic. There's both affirmative and negative evidence that goes through and details various specific points of the debates that you'll be engaging. If you haven't yet, you should go and you should check out the arguments and evidence page and see some of the ways that the evidence is structured and presented. We present it in what we call cards. Cards are paragraphs or clippings from an article that make a particular argument. Those particular arguments then have a tag on them, which is something that is your own words and describes the words of the author. Evidence is very important in policy debate because it makes it so that debaters can't simply make claims, they actually have to back them up with expert opinion and other things. Now, something else that policy debate has is a year-long topic. I mentioned this briefly before, but this allows debaters to get in depth on topics and to re-evaluate arguments that they've made in the past. For example, if you go to your first tournament and make an argument about why it would be bad for the United States to engage with Iran because it would hurt our credibility with other nations, then you can take the feedback you get from that argument and you can build it into your next debate. Now, the next section is, how does a debate work? Well, in a debate round, there are two teams. Your school will decide ahead of time, or you will decide ahead of time, who your partner will be. That partner is somebody who you will usually debate with for the year, but it could just be for a tournament. As a team, you and your partner, you'll go in and you'll debate a a team from another school, which will be 2 people from another school, and there will be a judge there from a neutral third-party school. That judge will be the one who decides who wins the debate and who loses the debate, and also who has the best points and who has the best who has the best speaking and who has the best arguments. The judge usually will be somebody who's an expert or who is trained at debate so that they can give you the best evaluation you can. Now, each tournament, which is the place where we have our competitions, has 6 to 8 individual rounds of debate. During the course of the tournament, you will have to debate both affirmative in favor of the proposition and negative and against the opposition throughout the tournament. You may go into the first round and be affirmative, and then in the next round you'll be negative, and so on. Now, this goes on throughout the entire tournament, and at the end of the preliminary rounds of the tournament will decide who the top competitors are, and those competitors will advance to elimination or playoff style rounds. The next section is, what are the parts of a debate? Well, in a debate there are 8 speeches. Each speaker gives 2 speeches. Each speaker on each team gives 2 speeches, and each team gives 4 speeches. The affirmative starts the debate off with the first affirmative constructive, and constructives are speeches in which you can present new arguments, present new ideas, and develop the points that you're trying to make. The other type of speech, which happens in the later part of the debate, is the rebuttal. And the rebuttal, you clarify your arguments and you crystallize the points you're making, and you make it easy for the judge to understand why they would be voting for you. If you can, we'll go more later into the differences between affirmative and negative and constructive and rebuttal, but those are 2 binaries that you need to remember because they basically divide up most of the debate. Now, after the first affirmative constructive goes, then the negative will get up and present their case and the first negative constructive. That's called the 1NC. The shorthand for that is that 1 is the speaker position, N or A represents negative or affirmative, and C or R represents constructive or rebuttal. And there will be more on this on the notes for the lecture today. But there's also cross-examination. Cross-examination occurs after the constructives and allows the team that is not speaking to ask questions of the team that is speaking. This is usually 3 minutes, and there's 4 of these sessions throughout a debate. Now, and again, we'll go more into that in the actual explanations and text for today. The last thing I want to talk about are the types of argument. There are 5 types of argument that we'll be focusing on during the course of this class. Affirmative case debates. These are arguments where the affirmative presents its idea, prevents its case for change, and the negative presents arguments in response to it that directly challenge the claims about the particular case. Now, there are also off-case arguments, the first of which is called a disadvantage. A disadvantage is a negative argument which says that the affirmative causes bad things to happen that aren't happening right now. So, for example, if the affirmative was to strike a deal with Iran, a disadvantage might say that the United States has terrorist credibility right now and that it doesn't negotiate with terrorist nations, but negotiating with Iran would cause us to lose that terrorist credibility, and losing that credibility would ultimately mean that there were more terrorist attacks around the world. The disadvantage is supposed to be a reason to not do the affirmative plan that the affirmative offers, and we'll talk more about that when we talk specifically about debating disadvantages. The next option is a counterplan. This is for when the negative agrees that the affirmative is tackling an important problem, but perhaps thinks that they're tackling it a wrong way and offer an alternative suggestion for how they can do it. The next is topicality theory and framework debates. These are debates about how debate should be, about how we should practice the game, and about how it should be structured. We'll go more into specifics about those and the activities in the reading today, but these are things that allow you to challenge the fairness of the other side's arguments. Finally, there are critical arguments or critiques. These challenge the assumptions and underpinnings of what it is that the other team is arguing. They serve as a way to be able to say that without challenging the assumptions that you make, you can't ever get to a productive policy conclusion, and they usually claim impacts that are either moral or ethical. Okay, that's the basic introduction to debate. Hopefully the readings and activities and today's packet will provide you more information in this. And with that, thank you.